It seems we're live. Let's check the confirmation from YouTube. There you go. It's live on YouTube. Excellent. All right. And it seems we're live. Mute the speakers. And let's start this. To whoever is here, I don't see anybody being around. I cannot see the stream on how many people are viewing right now. It's different screens and all that, but so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start by looking at the builds here, and then in a few minutes I'm gonna start a little presentation while we're doing the release at the same time. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining for this Falcon community hangout, as well as the live release of version 4.0.5. We have been extremely busy lately, all of us in the team, and so the activity on the project was not that great. I mean, we still managed to do quite a few things with the help of the community, of course, but you know, it's one of these things. A lot of things come into your life, and you have to address them. So we just didn't have enough time, all of us from the team. So right in front of me I have for those that are wondering, this is not the correct tab, this is the correct tab, 4.0.4, 4.0.x. Right in front of me I have Psr. It's the tool that we use to generate the DLLs and the builds. This one is Travis. This one has passed. This is the new release that I'm creating. Some tips that we have, kind of like a checklist on our own. This is the project, and these are the GitHub actions. And what I have noticed is, while I was preparing for this hangout, is you see this X around here. That was not the case earlier. So if you go scroll down, you're gonna see that this this merged to the 4.0 actually succeeded 1, 2, 3 green check marks, and this is something that I pushed in with a change, bug fix. But when I started here, I think this morning, it started failing, and it fails on the Windows builds. There is something wrong there. I have no idea how to fix it right now. I'll have to wait for Rude to have a look at it. Maybe it's some misspelling or miscalculation and all that stuff. So what I have done is, let me just show you what we usually do. This is our little deployment checklist that we have. So I went in and changed the version. I went and changed the config.json for the new release, Psr for the DLLs, the new release, sorted out the changelog, and package.xml is for pair. And then I generated the C code. I did all these things with the ext folder. I built the optimized code. I built the extension locally. Everything was fine. Looked at the changelog. There were no errors for the changelog. And then I looked at the versions on Psr, and they have already passed. All right, so we're down here in this part to draft the GitHub release. So I did all of this work beforehand so that we don't get that much of a delay. But as you will see, I do have the draft release here. I'm waiting for the DLLs, but this is the bottleneck right now. I did have to change the changelog a little bit for Peckle because I forgot to put it in there. It still had the 4.0.4. So once I did that, because I have a pull request set for branch 4.0.x to branch master for the new release, it launches two runs here, and you have to wait for both of them. And unfortunately, it's 17 minutes per run or something. Sorry, it's 29 minutes per run. So we're gonna have to do this, and then I regenerate the ext again just in case. And I'm gonna have to wait for those two. So this is gonna take a little bit to be completed before we can actually go in and merge everything that has to be merged. The pull request for Falcon is where is it? Hold on a sec. It's here. So this is the release from 4.0 to master, and all these good things, and a lot of the tests have passed. These DLLs, I don't know why they mess up, but we still have these two to run, waiting for Appware. So we're gonna have to wait for those. There's nothing we can do for now. We did mention that we are making an effort to do some maintenance tasks and have GitHub Actions build our DLLs. That has not materialized yet, but of course, if anybody from the community has any expertise on that and wants to get involved on how to do DLLs with GitHub Actions, by all means, get in touch with us or send pull requests or talk to us, whatever. All right, let's go briefly to the presentation I got for you here. Let me get my mug. Hold on a sec. Need to get my little vaping device. All right, so 4.0.5 release and community hangout. Welcome to everybody that is spending some time with us today. Our agenda, as usual, is introduction. Welcome to everybody. A big thank you for all the community and contributors. A small status update, and we're going to be doing the live release. So this is going to go very quickly. It's just a few slides just to highlight a few things and talk with you on things that we have going on. Actually, I need to see something here. Give me a sec. Alright, okay. So it seems that I managed to fix the problem of streaming at 360p with the last Hangout. So now I can see YouTube does have 1080p quality, 60 frames per second. So that's great. Alright. First of all, welcome to everybody again. I'm just repeating myself, but I just want to make sure that everybody feels welcome here. A huge thank you to our community. This slide, as we've said numerous times before, is always there just to say a thank you to everybody that has been contributing and has followed us. And also just to give you a heads up on all the social media that we're in. With Phalcon, we decided, just to give you a heads up, with Phalcon we decided that we need to have a presence on any social media network that exists or that we could find. We just made sure that we are on Telegram, on Gab, on MeWe, Parler, along with Facebook, Twitter, and so on and so forth. The latest one that we added was Brighteon. It's this one down here. So we are uploading our videos there. So whoever wants to follow us there, by all means do so, if that is your streaming service of choice. We also have the same presence in Library, BitChute, and YouTube at the same time. And all these videos are getting uploaded to all of the platforms. You might ask why. It is our belief that the old normal system of going into 2 or 3 websites is dying slowly. a lot of people are not very happy with YouTube. A lot of people are not happy with Facebook, and a lot of people are not happy with Twitter. And those people tend to go to alternative media or different alternatives. So we're trying our best to have a presence on each of those alternative media, because some, we don't want to lose audience. We just want to offer all the opportunities available for everybody to see our content. So that's why we have this presence. Usually it's not that much of a big deal for us to post on every one of those social media platforms. For YouTube, Library, and BitChute, if we upload a video, it gets uploaded automatically on those two, so we don't have to do anything. Brighteon is a little bit more manual, but if we do a live, just like this one, then I have to download the video and then upload it. Lives do not count in this kind of automatic upload from one to another, but it doesn't matter. It's a little bit of a hassle for us, but I'm sure it's worth the trouble in order to give our audience the best options available, so that you guys can choose where you want to see the content. Okay. That is the because we had a question about why are you in so many places. Again, same slide. We always have the slide, and we always will have it. It's a huge thanks to everybody that has been translating our documentation using Crowdin, and a huge thanks to Crowdin for allowing us to have their service for free for the open source project that we have. So for those that do not know it, if you want to translate Phalcon documentation into your own native tongue, you can actually go to Crowdin and seek our project, the project up here, and all you have to do is just click on their user interface. After you've selected your language, you will first have to ask to be added into the team of the language that you want, and then all you have to do is just go and click on one term or one phrase and start translating it to your own documentation. The way it works is that every language has a proofreader, so somebody else who has been, if you like, established in the fact that they know the language. So for instance, Sergey knows Russian, right? I know Greek, Ruud knows Dutch. But there's other people also that know other languages, and we've known them for quite a while. So whatever you do, you post it, and then the proofreader actually reads your translations and then approves it. Once the translations get approved, they end up in our documentation. Okay. So by all means, if you want to try, this is a very easy, inexpensive, and do it as much as you want or as little as you want way to contribute to the project. And if you're new to open source contributions, this is a very good way of getting into the realm of contributing to open source, by just offering some translations so that your work can help other people that are not so good with English and all that. Okay. All right. So the summary for this release, we had 130 commits, 469 files have been changed, and we actually finished 23 cards in our GitHub project. The card denotes one issue, and it does not restrict itself only into the C Falcon repository. So the cards that we did on the project could very well come from either DevTools or Invo or Okuro or our other repositories, Incubator, and so on and so forth. So it wasn't only the C Falcon, it's 23 cards or issues done throughout the whole organization. Our current situation is that we have 100 issues in the issue tracker. A good chunk of them, especially on the front page, if you're looking at them, are bugs that are mostly unverified. That means that we have not been able to create a test to verify what has been reported. If we cannot verify what has been reported, we cannot reproduce it, and therefore we cannot fix it. So whoever is a little bit more adept into the testing, the best thing you guys can do if you report a bug is to actually have a test with your report. Now, this might be difficult for a lot of people, but if feasible, please know that it helps us a lot when there is a test into the code. Okay, if you can't, you can't. That's pretty much fine. We have 8 pull requests. One of them is kind of like a duplicate, and we have some pull requests that are currently blocked. So for instance, there is one for the MongoDB document, the ODM, as we call it, the object data mapper, and that one is blocked because we have some serious problems with how it's going to be implemented. The newest version of the Mongo driver offers a lot of things, and TacticX has been perfect in just trying to get this thing rolling. He wrote a lot of tests, a lot of documentation, a lot of things. The problem, though, is that some of the stuff that has been implemented, and I've mentioned this before in a previous Hangout, some of the stuff that has been implemented requires the BSON object from Mongo, and here lies the problem. The minute you put a reference into Phalcon to a separate class and a separate namespace, because of the way ZendEngine works, for every single request, that particular reference and that particular class has to be present. To give you an example, you know that in 4.0 we have put a requirement, the Psr extension. So Phalcon is Psr compliant perfectly, but Psr has to be loaded before Phalcon. Let's say you get the logger component, right? If you open the logger component, you're gonna see that you have the Psr extension in there. So let me quickly show you something here. Let me just put this on top here. So let's see, Phalcon. Where's my logger? There it is. All right. So as you see, this is Zephyr code, and this will be translated into C and finally the extension. As you can see here, here everything is fine because it's exactly the same namespace. It's Phalcon / blah 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 something, Phalcon logger. But we also have this guy here, and that is a totally different namespace. It's the Psr namespace. So we assume that you have the Psr namespace loaded somewhere in your application, in your environment, and it has to be loaded before Phalcon loads, because otherwise this one will not work. All right. When ZendEngine sees this namespace, it tries to load it and interpret it and see where this thing lies in your system. If it's not present, it's going to stop. It's not going to load your extension. That's why we're saying load Psr first before Phalcon. Same thing happens with PDO. Now, in the case of Mongo, if we put the BSON object in there, which apparently offers a hell of a lot more functionality to us in order to do operations, that means that for every request, every single request that Phalcon has to process, that BSON namespaced object from Mongo has to be present in your application. And this one causes some serious problems because, for instance, I might not like Mongo, so why should I have to load the Mongo extension before Phalcon just so that I can use Phalcon? All right. So This particular conundrum is making this implementation a little bit tricky in order to get it to the to everybody. So we're trying to figure out how we can do this. I don't know, maybe we could potentially split Phalcon into two, so to speak, so that one Phalcon is with the Mongo and one with not without. At which point, then you're worried about all the potential miscommunication and confusion that would happen with our community. You know, we might get this extension and then that extension. Then in the end, you end up with double the DLLs. Some for the extension that has the Mongo, some for the ones that they don't. So this is the problem that we're facing right now. And I doubt that splitting Phalcon into two different versions would actually help. It would probably cause more problems. So the question also has been raised as, why is this now a problem? You were using Mongo before, right? So I'll give you the example with, let's say, the Redis adapter, right? So we're using Redis as well, but there is a tiny difference here, and that difference makes that change makes all the difference. So as you see here, this is the Redis storage adapter, and all the namespaces at the top of what this particular class is using are Falcon related. So there's nothing outside, so to speak. It's not the same as the one that we saw. Let me just keep this open, and let me reopen the logger. As you see here in the logger, we do have an external namespace, which is the Psr. But here in Redis, we do not. And so how does this thing communicate? It does assume that you have the Redis extension. And when you go to the get adapter, somewhere, sorry, there you go. When you go to the get adapter method, as you see, the connection here creates a new /Redis. So I assume that the Redis extension is already loaded, and then I'm creating this particular object here. Now, if Redis is not available, pRedis is not available in my system, the application Phalcon will fail, will produce an error, if you like, only when you hit this particular piece of code. But if you have declared your dependency up here with a different namespace, the Zend engine will have to load that on every single request before it starts serving anything. So you see the difference here. If you create the object inside the actual class, if you like, or method, then everything is fine, and it will fail only if you don't. But if you declare it up here, and especially if you do something like this, class logger implements logger interface. So this logger interface relies to there. So in order for this class over here to load, it needs to load the interface first. And here lies the problem. So that's why in this case Psr needs to be there first before Phalcon, and that's why here in the case of Redis we don't really care because it's inside this method, right? So these are the problems that we're having with Mongo. I went a little bit excuse me. I went a little bit off script here. I just wanted you to excuse me, to understand the technical issues that we're dealing with. Okay, so onwards and upwards. What were the highlights? I did mention this before. The team had too many fires at work and too many fires at personal life. So we were heavily busy, both on a work front and at home. I'm not going to get into what happened to each and every one of us, but it was kind of like the perfect storm for everybody. To give you an idea, there are times that we look at our chat on Telegram and there's only one good morning, and then it's the next day, because everybody's so busy that you don't have the time to address things. We've had a lot of late nights. We had a lot of weekends that we've been working at our day jobs, and a lot of things that we had to deal with work. And of course, let's not forget the big elephant in the room. There's also the coronavirus coming up, which I'm hoping that it will not be as bad as it's projected to be, but when you never know, we'll have to see. So there is another thing to worry about into our all of us. So as far as the coronavirus is concerned, wash your hands and stay safe. All right, so back to our slides. We have 4.0. We fixed 5 bugs, which is a good amount. But we also did additional work on 4.1. What I list here is the collection of the work that has been done throughout these few sprints since the beginning of the year. I don't remember if I mentioned all of them, so if I have before, please forgive me. So what we did, the newest and greatest things, is we started working on the data mapper pattern, which will hopefully replace our ORM with something more robust and faster. And I'm saying hopefully because we need to ensure that it is faster and it is better. All right. So as I mentioned before, both the current ORM, which is based on the active record pattern, as well as the data mapper pattern that we are building right now, will stay in Phalcon in sync for at least one major version. And then we will evaluate, we'll make sure that there's ample time for everybody to update all their applications, or to write their applications. Plus, it's going to be a new way of doing things, so there is the adjustment period that people would need to work on. Okay, so for that, we split it into smaller parts. We did mention that our data mapper is inspired and implemented or inherited, whatever you want to call it, from Atlas PHP, which is a project created by Paul M. Jones, the father of PSR2. We got the inspiration from there. We kind of like tweaked a lot of things on the way, and then we ended up with our PDO connection, and as well as a query builder. The query builder was the latest thing that has been introduced a few weeks back. Now, also in the NFRs, I think it was 2014 that a query builder for raw SQL had been requested. So I'm really happy with this new query builder CRUD that we created. We managed to close that NFR that has been up there for 6 years. So it's really good. Additional HTML helpers, the intention of those is to replace the tag component and get away from the static method hell that we end up with. And I'm mentioning static method hell because static methods and static properties do not behave extremely well with Zephyr, and that causes a lot of issues, especially when you're trying to clean up the input, reset defaults or reset input or something like that, the way it was called. Plus, the testing is really, really horrible with those methods. In any case, we started this work. There has been quite a few classes that have been added, and they're all coming under a class mapper, so that you can instantiate the object only when you need it, versus having a big class of 100 methods or 50 methods. Now you're only gonna be creating, let's say, the body class, which will give you a body HTML string in the end, and then if you want something else, you can create that. Okay, it kind of like reduces the memory usage in your application per se. We also added preload for Vault to take advantage of the HTTP2 preload header. I don't recall who asked this. I apologize, but thank you for asking that. We managed to implement that. We also had the ARR, the little helper class that we have for arrays, to have a new method called blacklist. Render HTML on the debug to get an HTML representation of an exception. And also we have Falcon Security Jwt. This is the first release of the JSON Web Tokens in Phalcon. And note that this one uses only symmetric methods, so it uses only HMAC, but in future releases we're gonna produce also the EDS something something something, which is the asymmetric, the one that uses a public and a private key at the same time. So these are the things that we have done so far, and where we are. V4 doesn't see a huge amount of love hasn't seen a huge amount of love lately, because mostly of what I mentioned, the fact that we're all busy, and we've been trying to kind of like keep a balance between 4.0 and 4.1. We do have certain issues that need to be fixed. Let me just bring this one here, which leads to what I was saying. We have a couple of issues in Zephyr. This has to do with scope issues, private and protected properties and all that stuff. And until those are fixed, we're not going to be able to address 2 or 3 issues that are currently in our GitHub. So this comes also to anybody. So are you a C programmer? Come on over and give us a hand with Zephyr. We're always going to be looking for competent C programmers that would be able to help us with Zephyr. And of course, if people are interested, we wouldn't mind parting with some of the money that we have in Open Collective in order to sponsor work that would help Zephyr. Because it so happens that we're such a small team. If one of us gets tangled with life issues or work issues, then we'll all slow down. And it so happened that these last couple of months, we all slowed down with issues. So this is the situation right now. Additionally, there are also some C issues that relate to, I think there's 1 or 2 with annotations and quite a few with Vault. So if those issues are sorted out in the C land and Zephyr land, we're going to have at least 10 to 15 issues that we will have them resolved. But, it is what it is. We're just making sure that we're moving forward. And if it does take a little bit more time, it does take a little bit more time. The C programmers, competent C programmers, are difficult to find. And what we have done is we have put shout-outs on Pickle, contacted people that we knew in order to get them to help us, even on a paid capacity. But so far, no luck. So we're getting there. We will see. That's why I wrote, "Are you a C programmer? Come over to help." So for 4.1, what is left to be done? What is in the pipelines? Continue work on the the data mapper. We need to do the table representation as well. There has to be a component that interrogates the schema and discovers the schema. In the current Phalcon version, in the current ORM, this is called the metadata. So the metadata adapters are the ones that go in and interrogate the schema and then figure out which field is integer, which one is string, and so on and so forth. So we need to have one of those. Then we're going to have to implement the mapper and then the full ORM that binds everything together. Additionally, we need to have some sort of a class generator, and I'm thinking this could very well become a part of the dev tools. But for now, I need to talk to Anton about this when the time comes, because it would be much easier for people to, instead of doing it by hand, to actually type in a small command, and then Phalcon automatically generates the model classes for you without you having to worry about whether you made a mistake or so on and so forth. Also for 4.1, we're building a DI container which is Psr 11 compliant. We do have one of those, but it only acts as a proxy to our current DI container. It is Psr 11 compliant, but it acts as a proxy. We've had problems with our DI container in terms of removing services, shared services, reinstantiating them. So you see some really weird behavior in certain cases. And we also wanted to make sure that our DI container, the new one that we're building, would actually be ready for auto wiring, which is one of the things that a lot of people have asked before, as well as discovering all sorts of PHP objects. So it could potentially inject classes, values, have mutators, inject traits, and so on and so forth. So all of that needs to be there. There is a good amount of work that has happened for this, but it's not ready yet. And once it is ready, it's going to be introduced. Also, one of the things that I wanted to do there is I wanted to have some sort of a configuration class for it. Right now, you will see that we have the service locator classes, so you could potentially service provider, the service provider. So you can create small classes, and in there you set up your service, and then you actually tell your application, go and grab all of these classes and load them up. Excuse me. So what I also wanted to do is I wanted to give an extra step where you can actually take let's say a config object or an array or something like that, and then inject it into your container, and already all your services have been set up. The most challenging part is to serialize it. Because I know a lot of people really love using closures to define their services because of the lazy loading, but closures cannot be serialized. So the idea behind the serialization is that you could take your container and store it in your cache, serialize, store it in your cache, and then in the next request, all you do is just unserialize and all your services are ready. So you speed up the auto injection part of that, but we'll see. For now, the approach that I'm taking is that the users set up their services, and they actually set up what should be injected where. All right, so the user goes in and says, all right, this particular class will require a logger here, and I don't know, a database here, and so on and so forth. And then they inject things on their own, or they help the container inject things on it. So instead of the container looking for a class and trying to find it and then load it, if that makes sense. Which of course is much slower because the user reflection. So also we have this link. I'm going to show it to you on the browser as well. It's called New Feature List Request. It's in our documentation. That particular list is generated every time that we load up our documentation, or we update our documentation. And what it does is it goes and finds all the comments that are in the issue that we track, all the NFRs. And based on how many reactions up or down our request has, it actually lists them by reaction count, for that matter. the top NFRs are of course addressed faster than the lower ones, unless a lower NFR is so easy to implement that you just do it and be done with it. So we're trying as much as possible to ensure that this is a community-driven approach. We're dealing with stuff that the community wants and not edge cases. Okay. Also for 4.1 and beyond, we're gonna, we did mention this before, and it's also in one of the NFRs. We're gonna rebuild our HTTP layer to work with PSR 7 and PSR 15. PSR 7 is the server request response, and PSR 15 is middleware. And in order for that to happen, we will either have to adjust or rewrite our router, and then the dispatcher will be this whole HTTP layer. It will have some sort of a runner that will handle all the middleware, and all the middleware would accept PSR 7 requests and responses, and so on and so forth, and all of that will come in and start booting up. With that, we go to the last part, is the implementation of the action domain responder pattern. Long way to go, loads of work. So, hi to Oleg. Hello, I just noticed the chat. You guys have not been talking much. All right, so, and we have Q&A. And again, thank you. That's me. That's the Falcon team. The emails, if you want to get in touch with us, other than Discord or other. So, all right, let me get out of this and let me go to Upveyor, which has been running, and we've been waiting. So this has been running for 22 minutes here. So in the next 5-10 minutes should be done. And then where is it? The action should be done by now. Yeah, this release file is pissing me off. And this one here, let me just refresh it. Okay, so these have passed, and then the Windows ones failed, and then we have these two running. So one of them will be done, and then the other one will be done as well. So I see Root is online, so maybe he can actually get an input if he has some time, because that's the weird part here in the Falcon actions. I mentioned this earlier. So this one was my merge of a bug fix. Oops, sorry. This was a bug fix that I did a couple of days ago, and all three passed. And the rest of it is me regenerating the packages in the ext folder and trying to do a release. And for every one of those, 2 of them pass and 1 of them fails. Of course, the code coverage and static code analysis, those are the ones that pass. But if you open one of them, everything fails on the Windows side, and the problem is this line over here. How it sets the path. So I have no idea why this thing happened, but we're gonna figure it out. I mean, this doesn't affect the release by any means. I don't know why it does it. System cannot find the path specified, which is fine. All right, so we're gonna sort that out, but it doesn't affect our release because our DLLs are being built by Upveyor, which is this guy, this slow guy over here. And I did mention that it takes a really long time. So after these 3 are done, then we're gonna have to wait for the other one to run, which will take another 30 minutes. So while we're here, guys, if you have any questions, by all means, go ahead, and you know, I'm gonna try and answer them as much as possible to the best of my knowledge. Alright, so we're waiting for this thing. Usually it doesn't take that long to happen, and bear in mind I started this nearly an hour before I started the Hangout, but hey, this is why I mentioned earlier that we need to get this AppVeyor thing and building the DLLs into GitHub Actions, because that will speed up our process significantly. Now we did manage to build some DLLs using GitHub Actions, but their size was quite significantly higher. And I'll give you an example. Somewhere here in the project cards, there is this bug here, investigate Windows DLL size, which our PECL and GitHub Action DLLs are currently at 5.71 megabytes. Normal AppVeyor is 1.5. We have a feeling that it has to do something with the flags that are being used in order to build the DLLs on the build command, or it could very well be that it's a totally different engine that runs on GitHub Actions. I think it's Visual C that does this. I might be wrong. So it's a different engine that AppVeyor runs versus GitHub Actions. So we'll see. It's just still under investigation. It's not a huge thing for us. I mean, if right now people are starting to worry if their server goes below 1 terabyte. So 1.5 megabytes versus 6 megabytes is not going to make a difference, but we still need to investigate why it happens, and we still have to make sure that everything runs fine. So once this guy is done, then we're gonna have that one that is completed, and then hold on, where is it? Here. And then one of these guys is going to be done, and then we're going to have to wait for the second one before we're ready to do the full release. And then once we merge this, then we're going to have to wait for AppVeyor to finish so the DLLs are ready. So of course I'm not going to wait for nearly 2 hours online here. I could keep the stream running if you guys want to. I don't mind, but it's gonna be a lot of waiting and waiting, because there's not much that I can do in terms of speeding this process up, at least for now. One other thing to mention: this is the actual page that I showed you. It's in the documentation. So if you go to the contributions and click on NFR here, I thought it was there. Hold on a sec. Where did I put this? Okay. Is it here? And I'm horrible at this. Oh, there it is. It's here. Before submitting new functionality, please open an NFR with. Actually, it's not even that. The NFR is here, but it doesn't have a link to the list. Okay, well, we can fix that. I thought I had a link to the list, to this one, but my bad. Okay, I thought that I had it here. Anyhow, so that's why people don't find it, which is a bummer. So anyway, what happens is, let me explain this real quick. Let me get one new tab open. So if you go to the issues here, you see the biggest thing here that says NFR request list and vote. Okay. Click on this guy. So we have a list of all the NFRs. We actually closed all of them and we put them all in here. And we have different little banners here, if you like. You know, the age of this is ancient. If you actually see this particular this particular issue, it was, hold on a second, let me just take this off. Okay, so I don't know if you can see the hover. I'll have to wait for YouTube to show me if, because there's a delay in the stream. Yeah, okay, the pop-up shows. All right, so if you see this one here at the at the very top, it says it was submitted January 15, 2013. So this one is easily 7 years old. It's support of embedding blocks into other blocks with regards to Volt. And then another one here again from 2013, embedded forms. These two have a really high score, so 14 and 12. This one says HTML option attributes by Falcon tag select 899. I'm gonna have to look into this because of I did mention that we created a lot of helper classes. So I'll have to check this out. Maybe this one has already been fixed in 4.1. Another one that has a really high score, again, it's been there since 2013, is the literal tag or verbatim tag or whatever. So if you want a piece of code not to be touched by Volt, you can actually enclose this into a block that says literal or end literal, stuff like that, and so on and so forth. So any reaction up here in this particular issue, it is actually being recorded in GitHub, and you know you have support for SQL Server, multi-array insertion, HTTP firewall. This one was created in 2016. We just need to make sure this one is ready, but we need to make sure that we document it properly, which we have not. And all these guys and all of that to done. Add a has method into the view, so that one has just 1 star. So what we do is when the documentation is being built, so let's say you have new translations that came up, or we had to change a little bit the text just to get some things going. What happens is an API call is initiated by the documentation engine to GitHub to this particular issue, and then to all the comments underneath this issue. So all the comments are being picked up, and then all the reactions per comment are getting picked up. So that 14 is there, and then what happens is those are getting sorted out by number of votes, if you like, or reactions, and then we create this table. As you can see, the Volt with literal tag is this here, 14. So if you click on this, it will get you to the relevant comment, and then you can actually go and click and see the actual issue as it was described. The faster the more we do these things, the easier it becomes for us, because the more we keep on going through the list and start getting rid of all these things slowly, then the better it is for us, because we're getting closer to what the community wants. So a couple of other things just to mention here. Down here at the bottom it says queue service, that we have something, and a little bit further up there was another one for Beanstalk and queue. Pretty sure I saw it somewhere. Add Redis queue adapter to replace Beanstalk. So the minute we sort out our queue issues, that's gonna definitely help us by killing two birds in one stone. Now, the reason, speaking of Beanstalk, the reason we took Beanstalk off was because the project was abandoned for years, right? And there were some issues that we would have that we couldn't solve because it was the underlying driver from Beanstalk. Now, I did check recently and I did see that they have newer releases and they have been working. Probably some people decided, hey, you know, we're going to support this. And they took over that. And there has been a significant traffic throughout 2019. So I don't know what the deal is with Beanstalk, but what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're following a particular standard that would allow people to automatically inject their own drivers, which will help us from implementing those drivers ourselves. We have discussed with, I mentioned this in the previous Hangout, we have discussed with the guys that build the Q interop. You can search them on GitHub. They're really great great guys, and they produced their own interface. And a lot of adapters have been created using that interface. So if you use that interface in your project, then it's extremely easy for you to just plug and play one adapter, and then now you're not using Beanstalk, you're using, let's say, Nats, or you're using Rabbit, or Redis for that matter. So we need to make sure that we align all these. The question also came, what happens with PSR? So coming back to what I was saying with regards to Mongo, and the fact that if you start using an interface or a class, or you extend a class in Phalcon that it's not from Phalcon, that particular namespace and class has to be present before Phalcon. So in the case of PSR is before Phalcon, and we put that as a requirement. So what would happen about this Q interop? So if this Q interop is to be used, it will have to be loaded before Phalcon, right? So let's say you will load PDO and then Q interop and then Phalcon itself. So that is where we're having a problem. I know that the guys from Q interop have actually reached out to the PSR community so that we can introduce a Q interop, Q interface as as a PSR one, but I have no idea what they're doing there, whether this is politics or not, or just plain old I don't care. But it hasn't caught up. When it was introduced, not many people were interested in it. We have been looking at this. Maybe maybe we can just revive the whole process and just make it a standard of PSR, so so that we can we don't have to load two extensions in order to get the Q interface. But that would happen later on. In the meantime, what I was thinking of is to kind of like clone what Q interop has right now and bring it into Phalcon under the Falcon namespace. And of course, this is not going to solve the problem. You're not going to be able to load one a Q interop implementation straight up to Phalcon, because the interface will be clashing. But what we could do is we could clone what they have with all the types, all the methods, and everything, and then look at what PSR is doing, PHP Fig, and if PHP Fig actually goes and builds things and then says, yeah, okay, with the Q interop we're gonna produce that new interface for queuing or for queues, then it will be much easier for us to just change the namespace and all the methods are going to be perfectly aligned or not. Alternatively, if PHP Fig doesn't care or whatever, I mean, I'm not criticizing, I'm just calling it as it is, then what we could do is we could create a little translator class, kind of like a proxy class that would take the methods from the queue interop potentially PHP implementation and just bring them into Phalcon. So they kind of like have a little proxy class going on there, which will have to be in the PHP userland versus the Phalcon one. Okay, so all of these things, I have to also talk to Maxime, who is the one that's leading the queue interop project, if they're okay with that. There is already an extension that we built for them, and it's in their organization. So you know, have a look at those things, and maybe we can work something out, all of us, just to make these things going on, moving forward. All right, so this particular thing has finished. Let's see what this one does. And there you go, that's the last part, continuous integration PR. So once this is done, I can merge this straight up and then start downloading the DLLs. And as far as we see here, oh, okay, we're halfway through nearly. And I just got word from Rude. He's in a very poor internet. He has a very poor internet connection, and he was trying to log into YouTube. He did send a little message, but I don't know how long it took him to send that message. So it's one of these things. So I mentioned about the issues, the NFRs. Okay, one other thing I wanted to mention here. No, I don't want you. You're there. Okay, with regards to this request list and vote, let me go back to the issues. You see here, we have another pinned issue that says refactor unit tests, add more tests. We'd like to thank a lot everybody that has contributed to this particular issue. These numbers here are not entirely accurate. We have made a significant progress to reducing those skip tests, and this list I just need to fix it, because I know Jeremy Bastoret, who is one of our latest contributors. There you go, there he is, Jeremy. So he tried and he included a lot of tests, and he just double checked on these, you know, annotations, assets, and so on and so forth. And I did quite a bit of work on them at some point. So pretty much what we want to do is we want to have all the tests running and all the tests being green. So let me quickly see here. This is clear. So I'm just gonna run this thing so that you can just see what I'm talking about. It should be done in a few. Permission denied. Oh, hold on. What was that? That's interesting. Oh wow, this thing was done as root. Okay. There you go, that will fix it. Alright, so let's generate this again. It should be done in a minute. So what I'm gonna do here is generating a new the extension. I'm just compiling it, and this is kind of like my test environment here as well. So I don't have Phalcon loaded all the time because I'm working on Phalcon. So once this runs, I'm gonna run the tests, and you're gonna see the difference that I'm talking about on how many tests have been skipped and how many tests we still have. It's a little bit of a catch-22. You really want to make sure that you have as much test coverage as possible, but then sometimes you just don't have the time to go there. So whoever, of course, is happy to build those tests or test it and potentially find issues that we haven't covered yet, by all means, go ahead. That would be great. So let's see this guy. All right, it's here. Don't remember if we fixed these. We might have. I just have to get a more up-to-date list on what is missing. We just don't. This is not the whole list. We haven't finalized them. We haven't finalized all of them. There's quite a few in the image ones that we need to address. In the HTTP namespace, quite a few of them. The tag form says needs to be addressed, or maybe I've done this. I think I've done this recently. The flash, quite a few of them. Filter, I think I've done this too. So that's why I'm saying I need to just update the list. So we definitely have a lot more assertions and a lot less tests to run. I know for sure that the database suite is green, so there's no skip tests. The CLI suite is also green. It doesn't have any skip tests, so it only remains the unit and the integration suites to have them green, so that we have tests for everything. And then after that, we can start working with CodeCov, which is the code coverage service that we're using, just to show us in which parts of the framework we don't have enough code coverage, so we can write more tests for that. So if I run the unit tests here, you can see some yellow S's creeping up there. So you see we have 244 skip tests. So that's what we're working on. We have less assertions than before, and we have less tests than before because we shrunk them. There were some tests that were unnecessary, or there were duplicates or something like that. So we started doing all this work. I mean, if you look at the whole suite, let's say ACL, it's green. Annotations, it's green. So all the tests pass in those particular folders. Assets has 16 that we need to work on, right? So these are the things that we're doing, and slowly we keep on adding more and more. And thanks to Jeremy for helping with this effort, and also a huge thanks for him taking the lead in enabling our database tests to run on Postgres. So for those that do not know, we recently made a change to our suite. Let me show you this real quick here. So the change that we made in our testing suite was to introduce this new suite called database. All right, and this database relates directly to this envs folder, and you see MySQL here has different module enabled, PGSQL has a different module enabled, SQLite and SQL Server we don't have anything yet, but the goal is to have one at some point, which I'm pretty sure Root would love that. So what you do is you run your tests with the envs parameter. So to give you an idea, if I run the tests here in let's say database, and I run them with env mysql -g mysql, I don't have the env file. Hold on a sec. I should do it. Alright, so this is the database suite that runs against MySQL. Alright, and it runs only the MySQL enabled tests. This one will run the common tests. The common tests. These are the tests that run for any suite, whether this is SQLite, PGSQL, and so on and so forth. The reason we have them split like this is because there's certain tests that cannot be run against a certain RDBMS because the way things are being structured. SQLite is a little bit less of a database, so to speak, in terms of features as compared to, let's say, MySQL, MariaDB, or Postgres. You know, those two are a lot more feature rich. So we cannot take advantage of the new functionality in SQLite, so we cannot run the tests for that. So what we did is we changed our tests to actually take advantage of the groups in that Codeception offers. So if you look at, let's say, this test, for instance, DB adapter PDO query, this one belongs to the group PGSQL, so it will run under Postgres. This one belongs to the group MySQL and SQLite, so it will run under the three. But if this was not gonna be able to run in the, let's say, SQLite, we'll just take out this line and it wouldn't run. But we're just trying to make sure that all of these get executed in as many RDBMSs as possible, so that we can ensure that everything works the way it is. One small note on this with regards to the new data mapper implementation. Data mapper does not replicate the language or the features that PDO has. It actually extends them. So whatever PDO offers, the new connection offers back. And this one, by not using PHQL or the dialects as we have right now, or the columns and all that, we actually get away from the eternal problem that we had, that this particular functionality works on MySQL, but it's not available on Postgres, and so on and so forth. So by removing that layer, we actually go straight to PDO, and whatever PDO offers, that's what you're going to get back. It gives us additional functionality in terms of you now control what you can get back from your application. Case in point, with version 4, we introduced a bunch of types of fields that were not available in version 3. So medium int, or tiny int, or tiny blob, or tiny text, or something like that. All these did not exist. We still do not have support for point, which has been requested numerous times. So the reason we don't have it is because it's not in the dialect, and the columns do not recognize the column type that you have. So everything gets translated into a varchar. By removing this particular layer and allowing you to write the SQL straight up, offers you better functionality in getting the data back that you want. So then you can start using the SQL that your RDBMS needs. Now, if you change RDBMS, it's gonna work, but it's gonna work so long as you do not use methods that are specific to a particular RDBMS. So for instance, I know group concat is something that MySQL has, but not sure if Postgres has it. So if you do make the switch, it's going to be really easy, but if you do have specific instructions towards the particular RDBMS, then you will have to change those. Just a couple of thoughts. I'm blabbering a little bit here, but just waiting for this thing to run. So this one should be done in the next 5 minutes, and then we will merge. And then I'm going to have to wait for all the DLLs to be built so I can put them in the release. After this thing gets merged, after this thing gets merged, I'm gonna stop the Hangout because we've been online for quite a bit now. I don't know, it's been going on for an hour and 15 minutes. So I don't want to take anybody's time, whoever's watching. So we'll call it a day in the next 5-10 minutes. Once this thing gets merged, and then the release will start coming up, and then after that is done, I'm gonna notify everybody with the relevant social media posts in order to get everything everybody informed about this. So all right, so let's see our checklist. So we've done this, save then we're here, we create the build page, and then we have to download the DLLs and then add them, and then I'll go to the package cloud and start building the RPMs there, so that everything is done with that. Let me close this. This one is the list. Refactor units test. Okay, so one more thing I can do while we're waiting is to go to the roadmap and start moving things around. So, oops. All right. So what we're doing here is for every card that we implemented, we're moving it into the released because it makes sense. You know, we released this, so there's no point in having it in the implemented. And the implemented column stays empty for the current sprint, so that until the next release. So it makes it a lot easier for us to see what has been implemented and what hasn't. And once the pull request gets merged, that particular card, this one down here, the release 2.0.5, let me just pull at the top so you guys can see it. This one will be moved into the implemented and released, of course, and then the released column will remain empty. So I'm quite happy that we managed to fix a good number of cards, and just so that people know, because I had this question for me, I had this question asked, is okay, well, will you release with just five bugs or 4 bugs or whatever? And I actually told them, well, what if those are critical bugs for the community? I mean, you should release in order to address something straight up. I mean, you could release only if you have one bug fix. I mean, it makes sense to actually do that. If you actually see certain other projects that have far more people working on them, and have usually two-week releases or sprints, if you like, they always release less than 10 bugs. That's the common average. So 5 is kind of good, I guess. So I'm happy that I see that we got 179 cards addressed, and 40 of them were not bugs. It's here in the side. These are unverified or non-existing bugs. So I'm happy that since the beginning of the year we're getting close to 180. So that means that we're moving. Now, having said that, this one here, the backlog that says 111, that is the collection of everything in the project. It's not only Phalcon, it's also DevTools. As you can see, the first one is DevTools, the second one is DevTools, DevTools, and it keeps on going. This one is documentation. This one is in our team repository, which is private. It's just for the team, and so on and so forth. So we do have a lot more cards on this part, but this is the collection of everything that we have. We're hoping that in the next release, these two, the current sprint will be much smaller in terms of size, and we started taking into account work stuff. What are we going to do with regards to our work and our families and all that stuff. So we're only pulling in cards that we know that we could potentially fix within the allocated time of the sprint. That's why you see a little bit of a slowdown. And of course another thing is that certain things that they just cannot be fixed. Or they cannot be validated. It is extremely difficult for us to just fix something if somebody turns around and says, well, this doesn't work. Okay, well, what did you do? How doesn't it work? Or just telling me that this particular query doesn't work, for instance, doesn't give me a lot of information. I'll give you a very easy example here, because I was looking at this morning, and kudos to Max. Max 62. So he opened this at the end of January, and he said, okay, this is I have a model, looks like this, and then I have a second model, looks like that, and my index controller, I do this. Okay. And then I see all these things, and then when I change this and when I change that and so on and so forth, this is how I see the error, and this is what I do see as a backtrace. So I remember Ruud and I actually had a screen share, and we tried to fix this and reproduce this, and we couldn't. So then Max replied, hey, you need to do this and you need to do that and so on and so forth. And then we still tried. We had some minor issues, and then Max replied with additional things here, more schema, more information, keeps on going. The latest thing that he posted today was, hey, look at this and replace the set method in this, and this is what I feel that the solution is. So pretty much he actually gave us an extremely good direction of where to look in the ORM in order to find it. The biggest problem that we have with Phalcon right now is that we don't have a lot of good tests. There's a lot of parts of the framework that do not get covered, do not have tests, especially when you're talking about the ORM. So things like these do happen, and it's really difficult for us to figure them out. Now, it doesn't matter how it happened or who did it, it's irrelevant right now. The fact is that this is where we are in the current situation, and we have to struggle through this in order to find exactly where we are, exactly what has been done, and try and address the issue. Okay. So this is an excellent report, and kudos to Max for helping us identify this. Hopefully we're gonna get this thing sorted out. I could potentially look at this today, depending on how much time I have left. So, all right. While I've been blabbering, this thing has finished, and we're coming back here. Really? Cannot be rebased due to conflicts. All right. Let's do this then. So that's the master. We need to go to git co 4.0.x git pull just to make sure. Okay. And all we do is that should close this PR. Okay, this one is done. It's it's implemented. Let's see this guy. Alright, so this one is running, and now we have one more running. Yay! Alright, so this particular one will be the one that we will download the DLLs from in order to attach them to the release and get everything behind it. So I'm looking at the chat. Hello William from Indonesia, hope you're doing well. Izo, hi buddy. The machine name Platinum, the story is I was trying to find a way to identify every computer in my network, and the best way for me at the time was to use the periodic table of elements. So each element corresponds to a number, and each number corresponds to the last part of the IP address. So I do have, let's say, a carbon computer here, so the IP address of that is 6. I have an iridium, it's 177, platinum is 178, and so on and so forth. So the minute I see the name of the computer in the list, if I do an nmap or a scan, I know which IP the computer is. So that's where that comes from. I know it's very nerdy, but hey, you know, people use constellations, they use whatever, you know, Looney Tunes characters to name their computers. I use periodic table of elements. So it's somewhere here. Gotta love all the interfaces that I got. There you go, 78. 78, not 178. And if you look at the... That's 200 IQ. No, I always loved the elements when I was growing up. Of course, I don't remember all of them, don't get me wrong, right? I do remember the most common ones kind of thing. especially the ones that are on my network. I even have a Krypton somewhere. So I don't remember its IP address, but it's somewhere here. It's probably one of my Kodi servers, or boxes for that matter. And I do have this little beauty here. It's a little Raspberry Pi with a fan on it. It's the Raspberry 4, and this is gonna be a Kodi server to stream videos for the kids upstairs from the server down here, the NAS. So anyway, all right, guys. Unless we have any other questions, I'm gonna close the stream. I don't want to get you to wait anymore. Here, this is gonna take at least 30 minutes easily to complete, and once that is done, I'm gonna take all the DLLs, put them in the release it, then go and do the RPMs and debs. Root in the meantime will actually push everything to Peckle, and then after that I have to create the short blog post, post everything in the social media networks, and we should be done. And I have to ping Paul to do the homebrew stuff. There is this is this, and there is something that Rude made. Where did he put it? Hold on a sec. There is I know he created something for me. It's this. No, that's not. That's not that. It's this. All right. Okay, so on this one, I did this. I did this. I did this. So I'm here. So tag the release, and then while I'm waiting for this thing to happen, I'll do the blog post and all that. All these would be done in one go, and then I'm gonna sort out the rest of them. Oh yay! All right, guys. Unless people have any questions, I'm just gonna cut this thing right now. Thank you to everybody that took a little bit of their day to join the Hangout, and we'll talk soon. All right.